knows too much.
Aleister Crowley grew up rich, but after his father died of cancer when the lad was 11, his life changed direction rapidly. Crowley rejected his Christian upbringing and became fond of drugs and prostitutes and devoted himself to hedonism. He studied alchemy and took much from Francois Rabelais, including the slogan, "Do what thou wilt," and the name of his eventual philosophy, Thelema, based largely on Rabelais, who wrote extensively on the virtues of marijuana, although Rabelais had to disguise the plan in code due to the Vatican's ban on writing or speaking about cannabis. Crowley's background in ceremonial magic really starts with his introduction to the Golden Dawn Society. Crowley was eventually drummed out of that organization. It was inevitable Crowley would get control of his own secret society at some point, although he continued to pick up degrees in as many magical societies as possible. The OTO Crowley eventually took over began in Germany as a revival of the Illuminati, and Crowley seems to have been a double agent pretending to support Germany while actually working for MI6. At some point, Crowley crossed the line by claiming magic powers that didn't exist, possibly an intelligence operation, as this sort of hoodwink seems to be standard operating procedure for setting up mystics supervised by counterintelligence. I imagine an intelligence connection could have begun soon after Crowley went to India to study meditation and yoga. After they conquered India, England moved swiftly to leverage control over established religions, something easily accomplished by offering a few crumbs of assistance. After establishing himself as a yoga master, Crowley got married and moved to Egypt, where he made telepathic contact with the Egyptian god of magic, Thoth. I could take this seriously if Crowley's career at this point was just recognized as an author of science fiction, but I'm afraid he intended his disciples to believe he routinely opened doors to other dimensions of time and space with the help of drugs and forbidden sex. The Process Church and Weathermen deployed those same tools to condition their mental slaves. Crowley claimed all sorts of magical powers. Meanwhile, among polite society in England, it's understood not to leave your kids alone with Crowley, as his conduct knows no moral guidelines. Somerset Maugham, another spook, would write a novel, The Magician, asserting that ritual murder was part of Crowley's bag of tricks. You see, some sorcerers believe if they kill someone, their soul can be transmuted into psychic energy, making the dark magician all that more powerful. In fact, however, Crowley was known as being wicked simply because he handed out cannabis and cocaine and encouraged their use, and was open about his bisexuality. He predicted the end of fundamentalist religion and returned to paganism. His writings about child sacrifice were actually a sly reference to masturbation. Many of the accusations against him have been twisted beyond all recognition. Since Maugham was an intelligence operative, and his book put Crowley on the map as the preeminent black magician, it's possible their confrontations were all staged as part of some complex operation. It seems that old money super rich have always been fascinated by magic and easily suckered out of their money by a good seance. So it wasn't long before people inside the oligarchy developed an interest in Crowley. We don't know when exactly he went to work for British intelligence as a secret agent, but when he came to America, his mission seems to have been to spy on German spies. He seems to have been involved in the plot to sink the Lusitania, which was done to bring the U.S. into England's war. He also may have been involved in the mysterious defection of Rudolf Hess and several other major intrigues during World War II. He supposedly invented the V sign used by Churchill as a magical device against Hitler. His impact on paganism and Wicca is comparable to Albert Pike's influence on Masonry. In fact, organized occultism is just the flip side of the coin on organized religion, and neither one holds any monopolies on enlightenment. It's interesting that Crowley's devotees can so easily pierce the hoodwinks of Christianity, but fail to see similar hoodwinks in Crowley's magic. Magic and religion are the same thing, and both sides of this wedge are stuffed with intelligence operations. A revealing detail of Crowley's limitations was his glaring failure to uncover the true recipe for the oil of Aberlin, which was based on the holy anointing oil of the Hebrews. According to Crowley, the magic substance contained 8 parts cinnamon, 4 parts myrrh, 2 parts galang-galang, 7 parts olive oil. In fact, there was no galang-a-lang in the ancient recipe, and the main ingredient of the oil was undoubtedly cannabis, although throughout the Middle Ages, calamus was substituted. The study of sacred oil leads into the history of the Holy Grail, as the story has its roots in Scythia centuries before the rise of Christianity. Crowley failed to uncover any of this history, despite his fondness for smoking cannabis. If there's a Crowley in England today, his name is David Icke, who also claims special magic powers. According to Icke, the royal family is really composed of shape-shifting alien reptiles from another dimension that only Icke is allowed to see. Believe it or not, Icke has a huge fan base and is hard at work trying to capture the center of energy on conspiracy research, despite being such an obvious disinfo agent or quack. Take your pick. Claiming special magical powers might get you some prestige inside the oligarchies, but for me, it's always an indicator of hoodwink in progress. By the end of his life, Crowley had become a bit of a joke inside British intel, and they considered him little more than a pawn to be used in misdirection ops. Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, was his handler at the end. Of course, a huge cult has developed around Crowley. They don't see him as an agent of British intel claiming special powers. They view him as the most enlightened man in the universe. Crowley left a troubled legacy, and some of his followers twist his philosophy for evil. So he's mostly known today as the founder of modern Satanism and a convenient scapegoat. I'm sure Crowley would be happy with this role.